Hello booktube, it's Nicole and today I'm here to do another weekly reading vlog, and this one's going to be really exciting because it is the Buzzwordathon this week. It's going to be my first time that I participate in a readathon on this channel. I've started the readathon and the first book I've started reading for this readathon is When the Moon Was Ours by Anne-Marie McElmore. I got this on Audible, so I've been listening to the audiobook today. I've only listened to I think an hour and a half, and the entire audiobook's just over 8 hours, so it's not super long, so I'm sort of hoping to knock that out tomorrow. The next audiobook I have that I'm hoping to read this week is How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. The audiobook I am hoping to get to is What I Know For Sure, which is by Oprah Winfrey, and I think it's just her talking about her life experiences and giving advice to people, talking about her regrets. I'm not really too sure. I love Oprah and I'm expecting to love this. Anyway, I'll show you my physical TBR now. So this is my physical TBR. So obviously I got to finish The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm 100 pages into this before I can continue on with The Girl Who Played With Fire and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest. So these ones are sort of like a last priority. What I think I'm gonna do is try and read like 50 pages of this a day. This book is like 500 pages long. It doesn't look that thick, but it is a big one. So I don't know, we'll see how we go. It's definitely on the lower priority just because I don't want to waste my time reading that one when it's not even going to count for the readathon. But I would really like to get to these. In fact, I would like to finish the whole trilogy because I have been meaning to read this trilogy for a very long time. The next book I have is When God Was a Rabbit, and I think this is going to be my first physical read that I start off with. I don't know much about this book except that it's magical realism. There's a blurb, you can pause it if you're interested in having a read, but yes, I think that's going to be my first physical read. Then I have, this is How I Rescued My Brain. I looked at my library and my library also has the audiobook for this, so this one's going to be a good one because I can switch between the physical and the audiobook, and then you can see I paid $2 for this. So yeah, it's about a forensic psychologist and his experiences seeing really tough cases. So I'm really kind of interested in that because, fun fact, I actually studied criminology at one point. I didn't finish the course, but it is something I'm definitely interested in. Now, if I finish these and I finish my audiobooks, I'm gonna continue. This is kind of like my last option, and this is Tomorrow When the War Began. I started this series when I was really young. This is a really old edition of the book. You can look at the color there, look at the color difference. You can tell this is an old edition, but I never finished the series and I want to finish it. If you don't know, this is an Australian series and it follows this girl here and her friends, and they go camping one weekend and they come back from their camping trip and discovered that the country has been invaded and their family's captured, and it's kind of like up to them to try and do something, which, you know, sounds a lot like Every Other Way plot, but it's kind of cool because I can't remember about the book, but I know in the movie it's actually set in, so I live in Melbourne and it's set in like country Victoria, which is like near places where I've gone for school camps and stuff, so that's pretty cool. So that's my TBR. Like I said before, I've started When God Was a Rabbit and I really like it so far. This is my first Anne-Marie McElmore and I really do like her writing. It's really good. I'm also really impressed with how diverse her book is. I wasn't expecting that. Hey guys, it is the next day, so it is day 2 of Buzzwordathon. I haven't finished the book yet, but I only have 3.5 hours left of the audiobook for When the Moon Was Ours. so I'm hoping to finish that tonight. I also started reading When God Was a Rabbit. I've only read 20 pages of this, so I'm really not that far into it, but ultimate goal for tonight is to get to 100 pages of this and finish When the Moon Was Out. Now, I had school all day today. Don't actually have school tomorrow, but I'm going in because it's assessment time. I'm gonna work on a few assessments for half the day, and then I'll come home and just do reading for the rest of the day, because I know if I do my work at the library, I will get a lot more done than when I'm at home, and there are just so many distractions. Anyway, I'm gonna go read now, and I will update you on my process later. So I literally just filmed this clip, and I was filming when I was sitting in my bed, and a spider literally dropped down from the roof and landed on me. So that clip's not gonna be used. So what I was saying was that it's Wednesday night now, and last night, Tuesday, I was saying to you guys that I was hoping to finish When the Moon Was Ours, and that didn't happen. Taking me quite a while to listen to this audiobook. I think because it's magical realism and it's a very whimsical story, and just the writing, you know, there's very long sentences, beautiful poetic sentences, but because of that you really have to focus, and every time I have put the book on pause and then come back to it, it kind of takes me a little bit to get into the story, and I have also, while I've been listening to it, stopped paying attention, so I've had to go back and re-listen to things, and that's just is why it's taking me a while. So if you're ever going to read this book, I recommend picking up the physical copy and not the audiobook. And I don't think I really said much about what this book is about, but that's because I really didn't really know until now. And it's really honestly about just the relationship between these two people who grew up as childhood friends. I said previously that this book is super diverse, and the two main characters are people of color, and there are two trans characters in this novel, one of them being one of the main characters, and it's a lot to do about like identity and growing up and the love and relationship between these two characters. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. The writing is stunning. The story is very thought-provoking. I'm really enjoying the topics and kind of the discussion that's being brought forward, but at the center of this is really the romance, and that's where the focus of the story is, and I am not really into romance-focused stories. I get a little bored with them, like they're just not what I gravitate towards. Like I enjoy romance, but I always enjoy it as a subplot. I don't like it when it takes over the story. Not that I would say like this completely takes over the story. I've also been reading When God Was a Rabbit. I would grab the book, but it's literally on the other side of my bedroom. I'm like 80 pages into that, and I'm really enjoying that as well, but it's also magical realism, and I don't think I made the wisest move reading two magical realisms at once, because there was one stage last night when I was really tired and I started to mix up the stories a little bit, because they're not the same story, but they have very much the same feel, and there was just, you know, a tired moment. I was hoping to have When God Was a Rabbit and When the Moon Was Out done by today. Morning guys, it is Thursday morning. I just wanted to quickly update you before I leave for the day. I did finish When the Moon Was Out last night, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really magical sort of fairy tale-esque story, and yeah, it was really beautiful. I really loved the discussion. I don't have a lot to add to what I said yesterday. I pretty much covered it all then, but yeah, it's really good, and I'm giving it 4 stars, but I wish I did read it physically. I think I would have enjoyed it more. So today's priority to finish is When God Was a Rabbit, which I think I can do. I have to go to school just in the morning, but I should be out after 10:30, and then I'll come home and I can read. While I was getting ready, I started How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, so that's going to be my next audiobook. So I'm going to listen to that while I travel to school, It's day 4 of the readathon and I've only read one book. I'm gonna go because I have to go get dressed and literally run out the door. So I woke up this morning and no one told me we were having people over to do our back deck. And I walked out in my pajamas looking like this mess, so I thought, why not just show this version of myself to the internet? It is Saturday. I did not film yesterday. I had an assessment due last night and I wasn't expecting it to take me so long, or as long as it did. Content-wise, it wasn't hard, and that's why I thought it was going to take me long, and that part of the assessment did not take me long. But you have to turn it into an online poster, which I had never done before, and so it was extremely fiddly. I had to work out how to use the program. I never used it before. Didn't end up updating you because I really had not much to update you on. I've started How to Stop Time. I'm still reading When God Was a Rabbit. Nothing else has really changed. So today is Saturday and tomorrow the readathon ends, and I've only read one book. I have nothing on today. Like, I have an assessment due Tuesday, but it's not a big one. I've made notes so I know how I'm going to answer every question. Well, today's focus is going to be to catch up on reading. I'm going to finish When God Was a Rabbit. I'm going to finish How to Stop Time, and then I want to start my next audiobook and hopefully finish 2 tomorrow. This is like getting very, very ambitious. But it kind of needs to happen because I feel like I failed this week. I kept saying to myself that I was going to read heaps this week because it was a readathon. And hey guys, so it's later in the day now and I've managed to get halfway through both books. Unfortunately, I'm not like loving either of them, which is making my reading process pretty slow. Anyway, I'll start off by talking about When God Was a Rabbit. This book it's described as a magical realism book, and having read earlier in the week When the Moon Was Ours, that is extremely magical realism. There is a lot of magical elements in it and it's really, really good. But this book I'm liking a lot less than this. The only magical aspect of this so far, which I think it's going to be the only magical aspect in the end if I'm halfway, is the fact that this girl owns a rabbit who talks to her, and he's really not a huge part of the story. What I'm finding difficult about this is it literally starts from when she was born, and most of it takes place throughout the 70s, following her childhood and growing up. So many elements in the story. It's very vague when they mention these topics, and everything is skimmed over. And just the whole story just feels like a lot of skimming, so I'm finding it really hard to connect with the story and to connect with the character. It is very well written, I will give it that, but yeah, so far I'm not loving it, because every time it brings up these characters come in, and you have these side characters in particular come in, and you hear a little bit of their story, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of over in a chapter on most of these. Yeah, I want more because I'm interested, and it doesn't really have a plot. I think that's also what's throwing me off. It's just following her life story. I'm going to finish this because I'm reading it for a readathon and I'm hoping it will get better, but yeah, it is kind of disappointing. Anyway, as for the audiobook, How to Stop Time by Matt Haig, I'm also not extremely loving. Didn't really give you a synopsis on that, but basically How to Stop Time is about a man called Tom, and he isn't immortal, but he has a very long extended life, so pretty much he ages a lot slower than everyone else. So we follow him present day, and he's just moved back to England, and he hasn't lived in England for a very long time, and he is working as a teacher. Flips back into the past, and we look at at him throughout history. We look at what happened to his family, we look at his love interests, we look at friendships and people that he met. It's a bit jarring, all this jumping around. I feel like we're not really getting to know modern day Tom and really caring about the story that's in the present. There's also a secret society that he is a part of, includes other people like him who live very long lives, and that's the part I'm most interested in the story, and that is takes up a very small proportion of the story, at least where I'm at in this point of the book. That's what's happening. One critical thing that I really don't like about this book is he's meeting a lot of famous, iconic people that lived throughout history. I don't like it when books do that, unless the actual book is supposed to be about that person. I don't like it when they just have a famous person drop in. That's just my personal preference. So unfortunately, these two are like disappointing so far. It's Saturday night now, and I just finished How to Stop Time. I don't know what I'm gonna rate this yet. I'm gonna think about it. Like I was saying before, I had a lot of trouble connecting with the story. I think the reason I had trouble connecting with the story was it was very disjointed. We had present day Tom, who he'd moved to London for the first time in a long time. He was starting a new job. He was thinking about making reconnections with people because for a long time he had isolated himself. And then the rest of the book is a lot of jumping back into the past, and it shows Tom throughout all his years, and he was born in like the 1500s. Because it was so jumpy, there was a very lacking consistency in the actual story and in the actual plot, and it wasn't strong. But also because we were looking at Tom through different periods of time, he was facing different issues. Like, yes, a lot of them were similar or the same. There wasn't a lot of linkage, they weren't very connected, and that just didn't work for me, and that just made it difficult for me to connect to him as a character, because we're seeing him throughout hundreds of years. Yes, I don't know how I'm gonna rate this. I'm thinking of giving it a 2.5, but now I am going to continue reading When God Was a Rabbit for the rest of the night. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. I have taken a couple of breaks and just been watching YouTube videos. Hello guys, it is Sunday, the final day of the readathon, and unfortunately I haven't read as much as I had hoped to today. I woke up to an email, actually my entire class woke up to an email that we had all skipped a very important step that we were supposed to include into our assessment. But in the assessment instructions, that step wasn't clearly stated, so none of us did it. We were all told to we had to redo the assessment pretty much, or not redo it, but just add in that extra missing component. This is the assessment I was talking about that was due Friday night, where I had to go and make an online poster. So pretty much I had to write up the extra missing bit and then put that into this online poster, which was so fiddly and I did not ever want to have to touch again. But that took up most of my day, unfortunately. So reading, I didn't get much done, but I have finished a book. I finished What I Know for Sure by Oprah Winfrey. This is her talking about life lessons that she's learned, and she relates it all to her own personal experiences. None of it was very new. I'd heard it before, but I really enjoyed it. She narrates the audiobook herself. I don't know if I mentioned, but I listened to the audiobook and I really liked it. She talks about gratitude, she talks about her difficulties accepting her body and body image and her own body image struggles. She talks about living in the moment and saying no, and saying no to people and all sorts of things. I really loved it, and I gave this 5 stars. There was no new advice or new things I hadn't heard, but it's always nice hearing someone else's perspective on it and hearing them relate it to their own life experiences. And Oprah is just so inspiring, and I just really loved it. It really touched me, and I want to go out and buy the physical copy because while I was listening, there was so much I wanted to highlight and tab to reflect on in the future when I need. I definitely recommend that one. Now, as for When God Was a Rabbit, I'm still reading this one. I've got like just over 100 pages left, and I am not liking this. Main issue with this is I don't understand the point of this book. If you asked me to give you a synopsis, I would really struggle. I want to finish this because I need to know, is it getting to a point, or is this just... When I finish When God's a Rabbit, I've only finished 4 books this week, which isn't the best, but isn't terrible. In fairness to myself, I had 5 assessments due this week. I was ahead and wasn't expecting to have as much to do as I did, but things happen. Hey guys, so I just finished this book, When God Was a Rabbit, and the last 80 pages of the book was jam-packed. It had a lot more going on. It was a lot more interesting to me than the first half of the book. There was a couple more elements of magical realism, like nothing major. Overall, I don't like this. I didn't like this book. I was reading the author's note because, like I was telling you earlier, when I was reading, most of the time throughout this book, I did not know the point of it, and she was talking about it's meant to be a lot about violence and the useless. I think she called it the useless act of violence. Let me just see what she actually wrote. The senselessness of violence is what she said. A lot of the times, the violence that actually happens within the story, it's violence taken from real life events, like the murder of John Lennon. She mentions bombings and acts of terrorism. She mentions Princess Diana's death. Basically, to give a summary of this book, it is pretty much just about the brother and the sister and their relationship and growing up. And something happens when they're very young and it is kept secret. I don't know, what I was saying earlier is still my opinion. I felt like a lot of this was surface level. I wanted her to go deeper into the topics. It was very much skimmed over, and it felt like we were just seeing these, every scene was just about an everyday mundane thing, which was really boring. I think I'm gonna give it like 1.75 stars, because it's not a 2, but that's not a 1, like exactly. Like, I didn't hate the book, I just dislike it, but the writing was nice, and I don't know. Anyway, I should quickly wrap up this vlog. I managed to read 4 books this readathon. So the first book I managed to finish was When the Moon Was Ours, and I really liked that book. I enjoyed it when I was reading it, and now looking back on it, it's one of those books when you look back and you're like, oh, that was a really beautiful book. So I give that book 4 stars. I then read How to Stop Time. The second book I read was How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. This book was disappointing, but I am interested in reading more of Matt Haig's books. I want to read The Humans. I've heard really good things about that. Then I read What I Know for Sure by Oprah Winfrey. This was my favorite book of the week. I really loved it. The last book I finished, which I started at the beginning of the week and it took me the entire week, was When God Was a Rabbit, and this was my most disappointing read of the week. I said everything I needed to say earlier. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it here. It is actually really late at night where I live, and I have school tomorrow. If you joined in on the Buzzwordathon, let me know what you read. If you managed to get to all your TBR, or not much of it like I did. And whatever you are currently reading, I hope you're enjoying, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!